How's it going, everybody? My name is Luciano. I'm an implementation specialist here at DoorLoop, and I have the pleasure today of walking you through a very, very important process in DoorLoop, which is filling your vacancies. We all know that's a process that occurs, and it's a big deal. Vacancies don't help us make any money. A lot of times they cost us money. So how are the features in DoorLoop going to assist us with filling those vacancies? We're going to chat about those things today. The webinar here is live. Feel free to drop chats and questions that you may have in the chat feature here in Zoom. We'll also open this up towards the end for a little additional Q&A and be able to address some of those questions that you guys might have. Otherwise, I'll kind of go through this process and I'll address those questions towards the end. We're going to assume a couple things have been set up as far as your DoorLoop account, like your tenants and property data has been entered. And we're going to focus in on the actual steps of rental applications and listings, and then moving into how do I move that tenant into my property. What we're going to start with is our settings for the rental applications. Before we actually send anything to anybody, before we list our properties, we want to make sure we are ready to get information from these tenants or prospective tenants, when the time comes. We're going to find this down in our general settings area in the bottom left corner, and our rental application settings will be almost all the way at the bottom. Once we select our rental application settings, we're going to go through setting up what it is we want to charge, what it is we want to ask for, any custom questions, document requesting. All these things are options in our rental application settings. Step one is going to be to determine how it is that we're going to charge the applicant for submitting their application. You will notice there are three options here. We have all-in-one solution, which is the most common situation when we do not have a merchant account connected, which is our account with Stripe for receiving online payments. We do not require that in order for you to do the screenings. So this is just an option where the applicants will pay $49.90 for their background check. That money will go directly to TransUnion, and you'll be provided the screening results on that application. If you have a merchant account connected and we've done our application with Stripe already to receive online payments, we do have the custom fee plan as an option. This will allow you to set a custom fee amount that you would like to charge for the application and make some money on these. This is a great option for generating a little additional revenue from the standard. The amount that you will generate as far as income is concerned is based on your subscription plan. The Pro, Premium, and Starter plans do have different costs associated with the background check to TransUnion, but TransUnion will deduct that amount from what the applicant pays. Stripe will deduct their $3.50, and the remaining profit will be deposited to your bank account. The third option that you see here is the application only option. This is really helpful in situations where we don't want to charge an application fee or we want to pre-screen a tenant before running a background check. The application only plan will allow you to send a link to a prospective tenant. They will fill out the application and submit it without paying anything. You will get the raw application data as if they filled out a piece of paper and handed it to you. You can then review those documents, choose to move forward based on what you see, or if you then want to run a screening, the option to run a screening is a secondary step. If we want to run that screening, you will then be asked if you want to send a link to the applicant to now pay for their background check, or you can also choose to absorb the cost of that background check, and TransUnion will deduct your fee from the merchant account that you have connected with DoorLoop, or from the credit card that you have on file for your subscription, depending on the situation. As we move through the different options that you have on the left, we are able to provide the applicant some instructions in the beginning of the application. These should be things that are likely going to prevent the tenant or the prospective tenant from moving forward. If I am not a pet-friendly community and my applicant has 8 dogs, he'll probably realize that right in the beginning that this may not be something he needs to complete. You can also make sure that this is where you provide some contact information for yourself in case the applicant has any issues, questions, or trouble. As we move through the additional sections, you'll notice there's more instruction tabs. If there's specific things you want to ask or provide the tenant as far as information, you can. You'll notice there's several toggles that are going to be turned on, and many of them have already been marked as required. These are the bare minimum that TransUnion needs to be able to do what they got to do for you and provide you screening details. However, other areas can be turned on if these are other things that we want to require that our applicants fill out, and we can choose to require them or not. This will kind of hold the same through several of these tabs. You'll see instruction areas, the toggles, and the ability to require that information or not. Maybe you want to tell the tenant that you need multiple years of resident history, or I need your last 3 employers. All these things can be included in these instruction tabs for providing the applicant a little bit more detail on what they need to provide you. The sections for vehicles, dependents, contacts, and pets are optional sections. You can choose to turn these on if you want to request details. Maybe you have limited parking, maybe you have occupancy restrictions and you need to know about dependents or children. You can also, of course, make sure you have contact information in case of emergency for your tenants. So all of these sections are, again, optional with the same toggles and requirement checkbox as the more mandatory sections above. One of the really cool features that we added recently was the ability to create questions as well. Sometimes the applications here don't have everything that you might want to ask the tenant or the prospective tenant. We can indicate whatever it is that we would like. They have the ability to answer that with a yes or no, and text if yes, meaning they'll get an additional field to provide you some reasoning or explanation for whatever they might have entered yes for, or just a free box where they get to type in whatever their answer may be to you. We can also initiate the requirement of documentation. So many of us are going to be taking copies of IDs, proof of income, these sorts of documents that we might want to have included in the application process. These are things that can be added. You'll notice the ability here to allow applicants to upload missing documents later. So in the event you don't require these and they skip over something or they don't include something, you do have the option of having that applicant go back into their application and add those things later. But if we have these, we might have the attachment name as government ID and whatever the instructions might be for that particular attachment. And if we need that to be a mandatory field, they'll be able to not be able to move on until they've attached something. Of course, we don't have total control over what it is they attach, but we do have the ability to make sure that they don't move on from this section unless they have attached something. And we can add multiple file requirements. So this could be something like proof of income that is needed for that tenant. Terms and conditions, also an optional category. The applicant will agree to DoorLoop and TransUnion's terms of service when they put in their email in the beginning of the application process. But this is a good place for you to put in a few extra protections for yourself. Things like the application fee is non-refundable regardless of the result. We know it's common sometimes for applicants to not be very happy when they're denied and things like that. So you might want to put in a bit of your maybe qualifying standards or important need to know information once they complete this application. Towards the bottom, we'll also see notifications as an option. So if you want to receive an email when applications are submitted, we can do that. We can also select whatever employee we need to be receiving those. The last section is our application link. In DoorLoop, there are many ways to provide a prospective tenant a link for your application. The application link that is here in the general settings, you will notice says it's a company link. This is a link that will provide the tenant or the prospective tenant the ability to apply for any open property that you have. There is an option for setting properties to open or not. So it's very important that if you send this link to somebody, they will see any property that you have available. There is an option, which I'll show you momentarily, to send links for specific properties. So if you're talking to a particular prospective tenant about a very specific location, it may not be desired to send them this company link, because from here they will see all the properties that you may have vacant or not vacant, but available for application. This is also the link that you might want to put in maybe some of your public listings if you're working with a realtor and they're working with posting on different listing services for you. These are general links that will have all your properties available. Once you've set up all the steps that you would like to go through here, we do have the ability to save and preview the application. If we save and preview, it's going to open up another tab here where we can experience the application just like the prospect would. It'll allow us to go through it without giving all the required information. You'll notice that with the toggle here, I can turn this on or off. If this is turned on, it will require that I indicate all the boxes are filled in. If I want to turn this off, it won't let me do those things, and it won't let me move on until I have indicated and filled in everything. So with this on, we can go through, we can skip everything, we can make sure everything is to our liking and has the requirements that we deem necessary. Okay. Once we finished everything, we tested it, we know we're good when we're happy with our application, we can go ahead and we can save this. Once we're ready to send an application, we can go to leasing and rental applications. So again, we can have that link that we provided from the company details and send that out. We can also add our prospect and send them a specific link. And we can also go into our properties and send a link for a specific property. In this example, I'm going to use our property 123 Southwest Main Boulevard and see that under the units, I have multiple. I have one that is occupied and I have one that is vacant. You'll notice on the right-hand side, this column for open for applications. I have one of these vacant that are not vacant. So I want to hit the three little dots over here and I want to close this property. This is not a property I'm going to be accepting applications on the moment, but it is okay to have occupied units as open for application. You may know that tenant is moving out soon. They're moving out at the end of the month, next month, and you want to begin the process of finding a prospective tenant to move into it. It's okay to have that open, but if you don't want that property showing up on any of your pages for availability, please make sure you disable that and close it for applications. We have our vacancy here, so we know we're ready for this one to use for rental applications. We can come here and copy the link that is specific to this unit. So if I sent somebody this link, it would only give that person the ability to apply for that specific property. It's going to request my email, again, asking for our consent and agreement to the terms of service. Have to agree to those before it allows me to continue to the application. I will get a verification code, and then I'll be able to go through those application steps that I showed a moment ago in the preview. Once that person finishes the application, it will then be under the rental application sections, either under that property or under leasing and the rental application section. You'll see in this case, it's going to say, have a little disclaimer here that the identity was unverifiable. I don't have a real tenant here that I'm trying to screen, so I don't have a real social and a real birthday. So of course this, is going to fail in the example purpose here. This does occasionally occur with certain errors or misinformation that the applicant might enter into the system. So it is possible, you'll notice here, to resend an application if they have to fix something. There was an error with their social. You'll notice little things with addresses if they don't put in the right address or they make mistakes in their address. That TransUnion might report that they were not able to provide a screening for this individual, and you can always resend it so they can make edits and changes, resubmit documents or something like that that weren't originally included. This will be an option for you. Once we click on the actual application, in this example, my prospect here filled this out with the application only option, which means there was no cost associated with this. I just get the details from their application. So you'll see we have their gender, the marital status, all this information that we required from the application settings that this person had to fill in and provide to us. I can go looking through all of this information and decide that maybe I'm good and maybe I'm happy and I want to go ahead and provide my screening decision here, which is available right here on the main tab. And I can update this decision to mark this as approved, rejected, or for whatever reason, maybe we want to ignore it. Just keep in mind, if we are rejecting applicants, in some states there is a requirement that you provide that applicant an adverse action letter, which is a little bit of detail regarding why they were denied. If we approve them, we can update this, mark it as that we did screen them. Again, in this scenario, I'm not processing an actual background check, but if we did want to screen the prospect at this time, we could send that to TransUnion. Again, in this example, my person has unidentifiable aspects of their application, so I'd have to resend this, put in actual a social or something like that for TransUnion to actually provide us details. But this reports page is where we would see that information. You will receive background check, credit check, as well as housing history in these reports and be able to make a determination based on the details of those reports. It's also very important to save reports if you want to keep them long-term. The background check reports that TransUnion provides do expire after 90 days. So if you want to keep those longer than that, there is an option to download them and save them here in your DoorLoop account. Once we have approved our tenant or prospective tenant, we can mark them approved. Whether or not I have actually screened them, I can still approve them if that's what I decide to do. And from the rental application page, we will now see that we're ready to create a lease for this prospect. The new lease process would take us through the steps of telling DoorLoop what it is that our lease already includes, so the dates for this lease and how and when they will begin, as well as the rental amounts that we want to charge. We have our prospect. This will load in automatically. We can invite them to our tenant portal, our renter's insurance, and of course, if we have our text messaging set up for SMS, we can make sure that they get their invitations for all of the above and our rent amounts. Once we fill in these steps, one of the options we're going to have towards the end of this is the ability to indicate how we need to take care of the lease itself. It's very important to remember that in DoorLoop, the lease is the object that represents the document. This is their account in DoorLoop, but we probably have to deal with an actual document as well. If that document has been signed outside of DoorLoop, you have a physical copy of a lease somewhere, it's already been executed, you use some other software to do, electronic signing or something, we can just mark this as signed and upload a copy. If we need to indicate that this is a document that has not been signed, this is also an option. And then we can tell the system, I want to sign this manually and I'll take care of this, or I want to sign this electronically, which will take us into our signature wizard. Now, the signature wizard is a super, super helpful tool for allowing you to sign documents electronically right through DoorLoop. This is a service that is provided by Dropbox Sign, very similar to a DocuSign, and will allow us to go through the steps of uploading the document that we want to sign and dropping in some text boxes for where either ourselves as the legal representative or the prospective future tenant will be able to sign and initial the document that we're uploading. So in this case, we know that this is a draft at the moment related to our prospect. We want to go ahead and move forward. We can adjust our subtitle for this email. We can give them instructions. And then we can upload our document. The document in a signature request in most scenarios should be generally filled out already. Should have the dates, the lease information, property information, rent amounts, and all those details. And you would upload that existing document that you have. I do have an example here for us of a lease here in Florida. The template feature is also very, very helpful, especially if you may be using the signature feature very often. If you have a high unit count, the template feature will allow you to upload a document that is blank and indicate all the different fields that you want DoorLoop to fill in for you, like rent amounts and lease dates and tenant information. It's a little bit more tedious, a little bit more setup. So we're going to focus today on the signature request, which is a little easier, but has a very similar flow. So you guys will get an idea of this. But if you have a lot of these, templates may be useful. So we'll see that we've attached our lease here. You are also able to attach multiple documents. So if you have a lease, but you also have maybe some extra addendums or community rules, things of that nature, you can make sure you upload all of those here and get the signatures for all of the documents that you need for moving. Once we move forward, we're going to get into who needs to sign this document. The system will, of course, drop in the first person, which is that future tenant, but we also need to, in this example, add ourselves. Users usually easiest to select somebody from the DoorLoop account that will be countersigning this document. But if by chance you're a property manager and you're dealing with an owner, you can also make sure that you select owner and then choose the owner that's going to receive that electronic invite for signing if it's not going to be yourself that is countersigning the document. For our user, we'll go ahead and put in the email that they are going to receive the document to. And we can also indicate that the signing order is required to be in this order. These names can be dragged and dropped in different orders, especially if there's multiple people. But if this is disabled, means both people will get the document at the same time. Doesn't really matter who signs first. But if we turn this on, it will make sure that the system sends this first to the prospective tenant here and then comes to me after for me to sign. Once we hit next one last time, it's going to actually populate the document that I attached earlier so that I can indicate where this document needs to be signed. Now, my sample lease is blank, has not been filled in with all the information that I recommend is already here. But just to kind of give you a little preview of what this looks like, your document is going to appear with all the things that you might have already filled out. So again, with the signature request, it's best that all these details have already been filled in. On the left-hand side, we'll be able to indicate who it is, which signer it is that we are working with in this moment. So in this case, right now, our baby blue here is related to the prospective tenant. I would want to drag boxes for anywhere that this tenant or myself need to sign or initial. In my example lease here, you'll notice that there are some spaces where initials are required on each page. So I can go ahead and I can drag one of these pink boxes over to our signature area. I can resize this. I can play with, the shape and everything to make sure it fits the space correctly. And then I can switch to the other color, which would be where I need to initial. And I can do much the same thing and move this over to the area where I need to initial in response. If we skip down to the area where some signatures would be required, we're going to do much the same thing. Let's start back with our prospective move-in tenant. So we know that that person needs to sign here. So we're going to go ahead and drop in the box where they need to sign. Again, really important to make sure you guys play with the size of the text box a little bit to ensure that it's going to fill in the line, have enough space for their signature to fit. In this example, you'll see this is a spot for signature to go, but that there's also a spot for them to put their full name. Because we know who this is going to, I can go ahead and I can drop in a text box for that. And the system will automatically put in who it is that is signing this document and drop their full name in there. There's also the ability to put a date stamp in here. So the date that they're doing this will also show up here in the template. Okay. Formatting of date, font, everything is also available. And then I can continue and I can switch to me as the additional signer. And now I want to drop a text box where I need to sign and our initials down here, just like before, and our full name. Oops. If there's any boxes where we want to also indicate that maybe we missed a box somewhere we want to type something in freely, there is the ability to drop text boxes in the field anywhere that we need to. And we can type something in if something is needed. It's just, again, a little bit more tedious to do it this way as opposed to having this document already filled out when you get to this page. Once we've gone through and indicated all the places that can be signed and initialed, you'll notice the send for signature has appeared in the bottom here. Now that we have boxes for both individuals to sign, and we can send this out for signature. Okay. Keep in mind, e-signatures do cost some credits depending on the subscription plan. On the premium plan, it's one of the best perks of that. There are no fees for the e-signature program. On the pro plan, these are about $1 per signature. So you want, not per signature, excuse me, but per signature document. And on the starter plan, about $3. There are credits that are available that you can have added to your subscription if needed. Once I'm ready, I hit finish, and this will send out the email for both of these parties to sign their document. And you'll see that this is out for signature. Once that prospective tenant signs that document, it will then come to me in my email and let me know it's ready for my counter signatures. So that's our rental application kind of flow into moving a tenant in. The one last thing we want to cover is in the event that this property, was vacant and we didn't already have somebody that was ready to, kind of take us up on our offer of having them move in, we want to talk about how to list this property online. This is very common. We have a few partners that this is possible with. So the first thing we're going to do is transition into our main settings and turn on our listing syndications. Listing syndications are available through a number of different partners. There's some different pros and cons to them. Some of them do require previous relationships or already set up relationships. And those are things like Zillow. Zillow is one of the most common and popular listing services to date, but they do require that you have a subscription with them first. They do have some paid features that you'll probably want to check out and see if any of them, are things that you want, but you will have to make sure you've created that Zillow account first. Zillow will ask that you send them an email. The details are here, so you want to make sure you follow the instructions, but you'll send them an email with your DoorLoop company ID, which will then take a couple days, but they'll sync up your DoorLoop account with your Zillow account so that if your properties in DoorLoop are set up correctly, they will automatically be listed once we flip the switch on the actual property. You'll see we have some additional partners, apartments.com, also very, very popular, Dwellsy, Rental Source, and Zumper. Apartments.com will allow you to post for free if we're posting under 5 units in a multifamily situation. Keep in mind, this is a little bit different if you're posting more than that. Apartments.com, like Zillow, will require a bit of a previous relationship where there are some costs and subscription packages that they have available for you to choose from. Dwellsy, Rental Source, and Zumper do not require any previous setup from you. We will handle listing for you, and you'll get communications into your email if anybody is interested that comes in from any of these listing partners. There are some additional settings down here at the bottom. For example, the ability to send a rental application. So if somebody on one of these websites indicates that they're interested in your property, the system will automatically provide them a link for that property that they're looking to apply for. We can also provide a link that maybe a realtor can put into their system that maybe you want to share on your Facebook page or some other place where they'll have the ability to go see your listings. Once we've finished up and we've selected the listing partners that we want to be working with, we'll go ahead and save this. Okay. Assuming our connections have been done and we have our previous relationships with Zillow and these different listing partners, we then need to set up our property. Under rentals and properties, we'll be able to find the property that we want to list and go through a few of the important need to know items. Once we select our property, you're going to notice that there's no photos here. There's no amenities that have been included yet. These are things that we want to make sure we go through and include. Under the unit, we'll see that vacant unit that we have. You'll also notice there's no square footage. There's no bedroom and bath square information either. So these are all things that we need to make sure that we add here in order for our listing, to be detailed and for people to find information that they find valuable. But you'll also see that companies like Zillow, for example, will not list your properties if they are missing this data. So it's very important that we go through a bit of a checklist. Under the unit label, we are able to see that the listing is not currently live. There is no description. There is no description on the property or unit. So in this place, we can kind of go through all of these things and make sure that we've filled in everything that is needed. We will typically recommend starting with the property information. Under property information, we'll be able to put in details about the property, especially in situations where we have a multifamily or a community sort of situation. The property details will typically be related to the exterior of that property. We want to put things about the neighborhood, the pool, the garage, the outside, the acreage, the plot of land that property is on, and some general descriptions about the outside. The unit, when we get there, will be a little bit more detailed regarding the interior of the property. As we scroll through the different sections on the left, we'll be able to add our photos of that property. Again, kind of focusing on the exterior, the house from the outside, the yard, the pool area, the mailbox room, all these things that you might want to show these prospective tenants that are looking for you on these websites. Property type will need to be selected. This is also done during the creation of the property, but at this point, we want to make sure this is accurate as these will impact the search results and where your property shows up as people are looking around our listing partners. If something is listed as a single family and it's not, when people are looking at certain places in those listing services, they may not find your property. So we want to make sure we have the right selection. We'll move on to amenities. And we'll see that there's a long list of different things you can indicate that your property has. You will notice, since we're under the property amenities, that these are kind of general for outside the property. You'll notice things like garages and, whether there's a pool, whether there's on-site management, recreational objects here. So you'll want to go through and select anything that pertains to this particular property and its availability. Under pet policy, we can say yes or no, pets are allowed or pets are not allowed. If pets are allowed, you also have the ability to provide a little additional detail. If you have any specific restrictions on weight or breed, you can make sure those things are detailed here as well. Once we've added all our data that is needed, we'll go ahead and save this, okay? We then want to move into our unit information, especially in situations where we're in a multifamily building. We want to make sure that we have unit information that's very specific to the unit that is available. So a market rent, if we know what we should be charging, even if that's not what we might be charging, we can go ahead and indicate this information. We can tell the system about the square footage of this apartment, the beds and the baths, and again, the description of it. This description should be a little bit more related to the interior of this unit. The flooring, the bedrooms, the kitchen, and all the granite countertops it might have, and all those details you want somebody to see and fall in love with as it pertains to the inside of your property. Very similarly, just like under the property, we're going to be able to add photos. These should be photos of the interior, your bedrooms, the kitchens, and all the common areas of the house. We want to make sure are in here. And our amenities. You'll notice there's a little bit of a difference with the type of amenities that are here. These are more focused on amenities that would be included in the interior of the unit. The type of flooring, the type of appliances, and different features that would be found inside the home. Rental application, if we are going to be taking those for the unit, you can make sure that these are turned on. And again, if you remember, there's that toggle under the listing settings to automatically send an application if that's desired by the applicant, and the system will automatically send that out for us. The last tab here is going to allow us to turn on this unit for listing. So we've done our listing syndication as far as choosing who we're going to partner with. We've gone through, we've added all our property and unit data. So the last step is actually turning on this particular unit for listing. If we have done everything correctly and we have filled in all the required spaces, you should not see any red text here. If we see red text, it's going to let you know that there's something missing, which means your ad will likely not be posted, especially again with services like Zillow, who can be very precise and detailed about the information that they want from their listing partners. You will need to make sure that the unit has that bed and bath and square footage information, that there are photos. Zillow will not post without photos. Apartments.com will not post without photos. We want to make sure that all of those things are added to the property and unit level information before we turn this switch on. But if we miss something, it will let us know. We can also indicate the date that that property is going to be available. If a particular employee in DoorLoop is, the main contact, we can make sure that they are listed here. And we would put here the actual asking rent for this property. You can also indicate deposit and lease term data if needed. Once we hit save, if we have set up everything correctly, let's turn this off since I'm not taking applications at the moment. I didn't put my date of availability. Let's see. All right. And now we save that. So now we'll see we turned on our listing. It's going to say listed, but as we know, I was missing some information. So although it's listed on our side, it's very possible that the listing partner may not be actually posting that ad if it's missing the stuff that I kind of skipped over and didn't add all that information for. So very important to make sure you check all those boxes to ensure that not only is DoorLoop going to tell you it's listed, but the listing partner will actually have that ad live on their website. If we have any questions, now would be the time to drop those in the chat box, and we'll review those together and address any questions and concerns you guys might have.